Alright, so here's the setup. I've got this piece of 2-inch square tubing clamped up in the vise here, and I'm going to be machining about a 3-inch long slot right in the middle here. So you can see I've already got the part model representing the slot already loaded in the Cartesian display. And so the first thing I need to do is find the center of the stock in the y-axis. Okay, so let's swap out our edge finder for a 3/8 solid carbide end mill. All right. Okay, we've already established that Y0 is the center line of this piece of square tubing. But what about X? Where does the slot belong in X? Well, for this example, it really doesn't matter. We're just going to machine it somewhere within the envelope of the size of this vise. But in real life, you know, the geometry would be relative to some origin. Well, in our case here, it's just the slot that's in the drawing, so the origin is just in the middle of the slot. But just indulge me here. Maybe in real life we had a scribe line or something that we could point to and say, okay, that's going to be X0. So for this example here, we're just going to kind of wing it in X, right? And that'll do for our purposes. All right, so let me just dial the X-axis over until it's about in the middle. Okay, right about there. Okay, we're going to call that X0. All right, now let's get the y-axis exactly back on 0 again. Okay. All right, now for the x-axis, all we have to do is zero out the x-axis, okay? Bam. And actually, the x-axis and the DRO doesn't really matter. I just zeroed it out just as a reference. Okay, down on the Cartesian display now, we want to go to Menu, System, Set XY0. Okay, now we got 0, 0. All right, and notice there's where the tool popped up, right at the origin, 0, 0. And of course, we're going to be using a tool that's smaller. We're going to be using a 3/8 end mill. All right, so pick that. So there it is. So now we got our tool selected. It's sitting right at the origin, and that's where we're going to begin. Okay, so to machine an excellent slot, the key to it is to get all the metal out of the middle of the slot first. Then go for your finished dimensions. So I need to pick my tool size, which is going to be 3/8. Okay, so now in this case here, look, the cutter is darn near the size of the slot itself. So we have to be really careful to lock the y-axis slide down while we're plunging the tool down to our depth of cut, because otherwise it'll walk. All right, so I'm going to lock the slide down, the y-axis, and I'm going to move the tool in X all the while I'm pulling down on the quill. So I'm ramping the tool down into the cut. All right, you can go the other way. Keep ramping, keep pulling the Z down, or bringing the knee up, whichever you like, until the tool finally pops through the sidewall of the tube, right? Then, you know, just simply go out here and mow all that metal out of the middle of the slot and get rid of all that metal, okay? If we didn't lock the y-axis down, guaranteed the tool would climb and gouge into the wall like that, right? So you don't want that, so make sure you have your y-axis locked down, okay? All right, now that we've got all that metal out of there, we can do our finish machining. So I'm going to turn the radar on, and this is where I get to behave like a human CNC machine, right? So now I'm just going to bring the tool in tolerance with that first line, right? So watch the radar. That's close enough. No, I'm going to climb along that wall, finish machining it. Next, now I'm going to stop when the cutter is right on center, right? The crosshairs, the blue crosshairs, that's the center of the tool. And I'm going to stop when it's right on the center of the arc, okay? Now, you've seen me machine arcs before, so I'm not going to get carried away with the explanation. But, you know, the fact that our cutter is so close to the size of the arc itself, we only need to, like, kiss the arc in a few different places to get a decent result. And so in this case here, I'm going to, let's see, I'm just going to drop the y-axis a little bit, and I'm going to move X over until I just touch the arc. You got to be careful because it's so close, right? I only have to move like 3/1000ths, right? Good. Okay, now I'm going to drop the y-axis again right to the center line. Now I got to move over about 3/1000ths again and just kiss the arc. Good. Now move X away. Now move Y down. Now move X back in and touch the arc. Okay. Move X away. move Y down. In this case here, I think I'm just going to go right for the finish. So I'm going to say, I'm going to take up that distance right there. So that's it. That's close enough. That'll be a decent looking arc. Now, next, and now that this line's on radar, I need to drop the Y a little bit more, so I'm just touching that line. Okay, good. Now I'm going to climb cut along this wall, right? And this arc is coming up next, right? And I'm just going to do the same thing, right? Clear. I'm going to move up in Y, move over in X to just kiss the arc, right? All right, now I'm going to move away in X, now I'm going to move up in Y, and then move over again in X to just touch the arc, okay? Move away in X. Now this time I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to move, I'm going to advance to the next entity, which is that line there, and I'm just going to bring Y up to just touch that line, okay? And just with touching the arc 3 or 4 times, you'll get a decent result. And you can do it finer if you like. It's all a matter of preference and what your level of patience is for this kind of stuff. Okay, so now I can machine along this line until I get to the middle about where I began, and that's it. So I've just machined a perfect slot. So this other geometry that you see here that's parallel to the slot that I just machined, okay, this slot needs a chamfer on it, and the chamfer is going to be parallel all around the slot, and I'm going to cut it with a form tool. And so what I did in my CAD model was I calculated where would the edge of the tool need to be to give me a chamfer of a given width. And so like this is essentially like a pseudo drive surface. I'm going to drive these lines just the way I drove the slot, and I'm going to yield a chamfer width that's what the width I'm looking for. And you can ultimately control the width of the slot, or the width of the chamfer rather, with the z-axis. But you're going to be driving these lines, right? But you can fine-tune the width of the chamfer with the knee or the quill just by pushing the tool down into the material a little further. Okay, so let's see, get that line on radar. So good. Now bring the tool up to touch it. Okay, good. Now I'm machining along this line and I'm heading for this arc. All right, just like before, except now we need to do a lot more iterations to get this arc to come out looking good, okay? So there I am. I'm right on the center of the arc with my tool center line. Now I'm going to drop the Y, bring X over to just kiss the arc, okay? Drop Y, move X, drop Y, move X, drop Y, move X. And, you know, as I've explained in other videos, you'll develop your own level of finesse, probably even better than what I'm showing here. I mean, my method has evolved a little bit as I've done this hundreds of times. And you just kiss the arc, you know, however many places you want and that your patience will allow to get the finish that you want. Okay? All right. Try not to go too negative. You see, I'm going negative a little bit. Technically, I'm gouging the arc. Okay, you don't want that. So go down and Y a little bit. Watch the radar carefully. Usually, if you get below 1/1000ths, I usually call that good. But it all depends on your application. But just be careful, especially when you're making tiny movements like this. It's easy to forget how close you are to the surface. Right? So here now I'm right at the center point of the arc. Move X over a little bit. Just kiss the arc. Now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move X away a little bit, and I'm going to drop Y. Then I'm going to go back in X and just touch the arc. Okay, and just do this as many times as you care. All right. At some point, I think at around the 45-degree point, you can just simply let's see, just drop Y, move Y down to touch the arc, move X away, drop Y. All right, to just touch the arc. And so again, you develop your own finesse for doing this, and it takes a minute or so to do each one of these arcs. You know, but luckily, you know, you're usually not doing this all day long on dozens of parts, right? That's not usually what we're doing with a system like this, right? Usually one-offs, prototypes, short production runs. You know, you couldn't expect a person to do this all day long, although, you know, to each his own. Okay, so there it is. So I'm just going to machine each one of these arcs, and just bear in mind that, you know, the larger arc, I was forced to do many more little iterations in order to get the arc to come out looking pretty. Okay, and a few more. Oh, I gouged it a little bit there. Got to be careful. Those small gouges you probably would never even notice anyways, but just saying. Okay, now I'm gonna be right on the center of the arc again, right there. Okay, so now I'm gonna bring the y-axis down to 0, or right there. Watch the radar. Okay, close enough. Now next is the next entity. Now I'm on that line, and just verify that you're in tolerance with it. You should be, and if you're not, adjust it. Okay, so now you can machine along this line, and I'm heading for the other arc, right? Next. Okay, and so now when I get to this arc, I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm not going to demonstrate it here because you're going to see me machine the part for real in a second here. Okay, and so you'll iterate your way around that arc, and now you'll have a beautiful parallel chamfer done with your form tool around that slot. And you'll see in a second, it's going to look great. Okay, now to switch over to my chamfer cutter. Okay, looks like this. Okay, here we go. So you can see I already took a little test cut here to set the depth of the chamfer tool. Okay, so the depth is all set. Now all I got to do is follow this perimeter here, just like before. Okay, so here's the result. Now you may have noticed if you're watching carefully while I was machining the chamfer that I actually did, while I was machining these arcs, gouge it in a couple of places by about 1/1000th of an inch or so. But you can't see it, you can't feel it, and it is an absolutely gorgeous burr-free chamfer. Right here you can see a little bit of a dwell mark from when I was setting the depth of the tool to get the width of the chamfer correct, but that would go away with a spring pass. And so there's the result, and it looks pretty darn good.